President Trump addressing the nation last night in his State of the Union address, celebrating the golden age of America, listing his economic wins during the first year back in office. Here's the president on mortgage rates and American housing. Watch.
Mortgage rates are the lowest in 4 years and falling fast, and the annual cost of a typical new mortgage is down almost $5,000 just since I took office. 1 year. And low interest rates will solve the Biden-created housing problem while at the same time protecting the values of those people who already own a house that really feel rich for the first time in their lives. We want to protect those values. We want to keep those values up. We're going to do both. And we are going to keep it that way.
Joining me now is U.S. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director and Chairman of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, William J. Pulte. William, thanks so much for being here. What is your reaction to the President's State of the Union speech, specifically about housing?
Well, he's the greatest of all time, right? He showed that last night. There's nobody like him. Look, the housing market was in the toilet. It was very, very bad. It was upside down. Nobody could afford a home these last 4 years. The president has come in, crushed inflation, gotten interest rates down. You know, to afford a mortgage, you had to have 8% mortgage rates. Now it's close to 5%. We've totally gotten ourselves out of the worst of the worst. Now we just got a little bit more work to do because, frankly, Biden left us such a disaster.
So what is left to do? Tell us the priorities right now.
Well, we got to get a new Fed chair in there, and the president's done a great job at picking a new Fed chair. But as you know, too late Powell has just waited way too long. I mean, it's almost a miracle that mortgage rates have a 5 handle on them, and we don't have a new Fed chair. So we did that. Obviously, the president announced last night that he's going to be banning institutions from owning homes. You know, people should live in homes, not corporations. You know, the Democrats, they talk about all these things, and last night they sat there and they were so smug. They've talked, but there's only one person who does anything, and that's President Trump. President Trump is going to get this done. He's already gotten it done. He's already changing behavior, by the way, in the housing market, because all the housing market participants know that you can't get away with this stuff anymore. So we finally have somebody in the Oval Office who's fighting for the average American, and I'm very confident we're going to restore the American dream.
Yeah, and I guess the president's policies in terms of not allowing institutions to own single-family homes would be a positive in terms of moving the needle on supply. Is that the goal?
Well, it's to affect both supply, and we want to make sure that people can afford on the demand side of things. So it's a two-way deal. You can't just look at one in isolation. So yes, we need to build more homes. We're working very actively with the home builders on that. But you also need to make sure that you have demand, and when you have demand, you have to make sure that people can afford a down payment. You have to make sure that people can afford their monthly interest payments. You know, these are the two ingredients that under Joe Biden, nobody could afford a down payment. Nobody could afford 8% mortgage rates. So these things can't be cost prohibitive for people to get into homes. And we need to be a nation of owners, not renters. And that's what President Trump is focused on.
And speaking of rates, mortgage rates dropping below 6% now, the average 30-year fixed at 5.99%, the lowest since 2022. That sparked a surge in refinancing, applications up 130% from a year ago as lower rates boost borrowing power heading into the spring housing market. William, how much lower do you expect it to go? And do you believe that even if the Fed cuts rates, that is going to trickle down to housing and mortgage rates? Because, you know, there's no guarantee that just because the Fed is cutting short-term rates that trickles down to mortgage rates, right?
Well, of course it does. But let me just step back for a second. You know, they tried to get President Trump to sell these companies for 100.
You know, I don't know that you can say, of course.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true. If you look at if you look at when they cut over a long period of time, or let's say not just an isolated event, it does actually lead to lower rates. I mean, it just makes sense. When banks have lower cost of capital, that obviously flows through to what their lending capabilities are. In our cases, we have lenders that are ready, willing, and able to lower rates. They've reduced their spread. They've done everything that they can, but we need a Federal Reserve chair. But let me just say one thing, Maria. They tried to convince President Trump, and he knew very quickly it was nonsense, to sell Fannie and Freddie for $100 billion, if you can believe that. Today, some people say that businesses are worth up to $1 trillion. Certainly, they're worth $500 billion to $700 billion, we believe. So, look, you have this situation where President Trump doesn't sell them for $100 billion. Then he has almost $200 billion, over $200 billion in cash. He goes and decides to make a buy on mortgage bonds, and now you're seeing rates come down. This is entirely because of President Trump, and this is entirely because of also his inflation-fighting regime, which he's reversed under Biden. So can you imagine that the president is largely responsible for these things? We need a Federal Reserve chair.
I'm glad you mentioned Fannie and Freddie, because the president is directing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to buy the $200 billion in mortgage bonds to help lower rates further. But you're right. We've been talking about the idea that the president would direct spitting out a portion of those companies into the public market. I mean, you yourself expected it to happen sooner rather than later. Is that off the table at this point?
It's on the table. Everything's on the table with President Trump. He keeps all options on the table at all times. And look, this $200 billion mortgage buy is a perfect example of keeping all options on the table. I mean, Joe Biden didn't even know Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac existed, much less knew that they had $250 billion in cash or cash equivalents. President Trump just finds money everywhere he goes, and he uses it for the benefit of the American people. In this case, $200 billion reduced mortgage rates. Boom, right away.
Okay, so do you expect we see an IPO of a portion of Fannie and Freddie this year, 2026?
I think it's very likely. I think it's more likely than not. But look, this is up to the president. The president is the one who controls this, and it will be a decision for him to make. And he's the only one on the face of the earth that knows that answer.
Now, look, we were just looking at the 10-year this morning, William, and you said a moment ago it makes perfect sense. The Federal Reserve lowers interest rates and mortgage rates are going to follow suit. If we're all expecting a cut in interest rates once Kevin Warsh begins, why is the 10-year up 2.5 basis points?
Well, I can't talk about why the 10-year is doing anything on any given day, and I'd refer you to Scott Besson for that. What I can say as it pertains to the mortgage rates is that we have reduced the spread. The spreads are tighter, meaning risk is out of the system more than ever under President Trump. That means President Trump's mortgage market is safer and sounder than ever before. If we get those 10-year rates down, and again, I'm very confident between Scott Besson and the new Fed chair, they've worked together for a long time, Maria. I'm very confident they're going to get these rates down, and we'll finally get this housing market really booming again.
All right, we're going to be watching all of that. Great to have you this morning. Thank you. William J. Pulte joining us on mortgages and housing. Stay with us. We'll be right back.